Hey guys, Chris here. What would you do if you were in the Oregon wilderness late at night by yourself and you saw two glowing eyes staring at you? That's next. Okay, so we are in the cabin tonight, and for tonight's beer, we have from Idaho. It's Idaho handcrafted. It's called Sockeye Socktoberfest Seasonal Lager. Got a nice little sockeye salmon there. That is a 6.5 ABV, and that is from the Sockeye Brewing Company out of Boise, Idaho. Ooh. Look at that. It's kind of golden. There we go. I'm going to take it right out of the can there. All right, here we go. Wow, very malty. And almost a mocha taste to it. I like that. Very lager tasting to it. And yeah, it's kind of a fun beer. SockeyBrewingCompany.com out of Idaho. So yeah, all right. Cheers to the sockeye. So our story takes place in the summer of 1968 in the great state of Oregon. There, near Mount Hood, was a logging company out of Eugene. And Mount Hood is the highest peak in Oregon at 14,240 some feet tall. It has active glaciers on it. It's a dormant stratovolcano. It's in the Mount Hood Wilderness, and around that is the Mount Hood National Forest at 1.1 million acres of wild land in the Cascade Range. And so this is where Daniel, age 18, very young man, was going to work with this logging operation out of Eugene. And his job was to install radio signaling equipment on the logging equipment. And this particular job he had to do was, there was this machine called a yarder. And what it does is it has these large spools, and then they run cables through them down the slope, and then they can attach logs and bring them up the slope with this yarder. And these machines can weigh 45 tons. And they bolt them down on these 3-foot round logs that are 50 feet long to stabilize them. And so Daniel's job was to attach this radio to this yarder. So Daniel shows up at this logging site well after the crew had left for the day. Now, they had him come at night because they couldn't afford to have him come in the middle of the day and have the whole logging crew standing around while he installed this equipment. So he pulls into the parking lot, parks it, gets out, opens up the trunk, gets the generator out, and he's got a work light flashlight that he grabs as well. And this generator's fairly light. It's got a handle on it. He can carry it, and he carries it up this pretty good slope to this landing where this yarder was at. Brings the generator over, hooks it up, gets the light on, turns on the generator, and starts working. He's installing a radio on this yarder. Now, around this yarder, there's some brush on the other side, and then there's this tree line that's pretty close, and then it cuts back behind the yarder, and then it goes like a little clearing over here, and there's a tree line off to the left. Daniel's working, he's by himself, he's miles from anybody, and this generator's pretty loud, making some noise, but he needs it to do his job. And it's about 7:30 at night when he showed up, and he's working for about 3 hours. So at about 10:30 at night, everything had gone fine up to this point, but at 10:30, something changed. He felt the hair on the back of his neck go up. And he didn't know why. He looked around, he didn't see anything. And he just had this really strange feeling come over him. Goes back to work. A couple minutes later, he feels he's being watched. And at this point, he's like, okay, this is getting really strange. And he reaches up, grabs his light, his work light, and he shines it off to his left, back towards the tree line, and he makes a pan over to behind the yarder. And as soon as it gets to the behind the yarder and just a little bit to the right, he sees this set of glowing eyes staring at him. Pretty high up too. It was hard to tell. He was guessing maybe 7-8 feet high. He stares at these eyes, glowing eyes. They're this white, golden, reflective eyes, almost like cat eyes, almond-shaped, cat-like eyes, staring at him for 15 seconds. And then they just turn to the right and disappear. And he's standing there holding this light, and now it's just darkness, and he's like trembling, and he's not sure what the heck he even saw. And then he turns back towards the generator, and he looks down, and everything's kind of normal over here, hangs the light back up, and he's thinking, I don't know what the heck that was. And so he gets back to work, and realizing that he's going to have to work faster to get out of there. And he's got this dilemma because he needs to get this job done before the crew shows up the next day. And yet there's something in the forest watching him. And he doesn't know where it is now. And so he's thinking, I got to get out of here, but I got to at least finish this one job. So he goes back to work and working faster. About 10 minutes later, he's working as fast as he can to get out of there. And then there's this breeze that comes across the top of the yarder, just a light breeze, but he smells this horrible stench. It smells like a wet dog mixed with a dead animal. And immediately this terror kicks back in, and he can feel the hair on the back of his neck go up. And he realizes the car is about 35 feet down this slope in the dark, and he has to get to it. And he's thinking about what he needs to do to get out of there. And he grabs the light, and he needs to see what's going on, so he shines it across the back of the yarder here, and he sees those same glowing eyes staring at him. But this time, there's this large shape of an animal, black in color, very wide, and about 8 feet tall. And he can tell because the equipment is like framing it in, and he can see about half of it, and it's clearly 8 feet tall. And again, he's staring at this thing on the other side of the equipment, just frozen, and this thing staring back at him, and this time like 20 seconds. And this silhouette with these large shoulders, he doesn't see any features except the glowing eyes, and he sees his head turn slightly to the right and then to the left. And at that point, he just had it, and flight kicked in. So he pulled the light back, reached down, disconnected the equipment from the generator. While the generator was still going, he picks it up with his left hand, and he turns, and he runs down the slope as fast as he can go, carrying this equipment. It's like this big jog to the car. Gets to the car, the generator's still going. He reaches down, he fumbles around with the primer and the button and the off switch, and he finally finds it, turns it off, brings it around to the back of the vehicle, opens the trunk, throws it in the trunk. He gets into the front seat of the car, starts it up, puts it in reverse, and the backup light turns on. And as he's backing up, he's expecting to see this Bigfoot walking in the light behind him. He didn't know what to expect. And he looked back up towards the yard, and he didn't see the creature up there. And so he put it in drive and started heading down the road, and again expecting something to come out of the forest in front of him or alongside the vehicle. He just felt this thing was around him somewhere. He had no idea. He went down the mountain in this Mount Hood National Forest, and he went about 5 miles away where he felt safe, parked the car, and he sat there, and he decided he's going to have to spend the night there because the crew was going to expect him up there the next morning. He spent the night in the car, hardly slept. About 4:30, he finally just zonked out. And he said, Daniel said that he woke up and he heard the sound of the bus coming up the road, the bus with the logging crew on it, and it woke him up. And as soon as it went by, he slid over to the driver's seat, got the car started, did a U-turn, and followed the bus up back to the logging site. Once he got there, he was able to finish the install. They tested the equipment, and the logging crew got back to work. As soon as they got back to work, Daniel walked around the yard and was looking for tracks to see what he could find. And he said there was a lot of brush and grass, and he didn't see anything. And as he was looking around and kind of thinking about what the heck just happened the night before, and just feeling like surreal because he's back at this site where this all happened, and now it's morning and the crew's all there and the machines are going, and it's like everything's back to normal, and it was very surreal feeling. And he's walking back towards his vehicle, and the foreman came over and said, "Hey, why did you park so far away from the job site? We noticed you down there early this morning." And Daniel at first didn't want to say anything, and then he said, "Well, here's what happened. I was up here and working, and it was late, and it was dark, and I saw these eyes, and then the smell," and he explained the whole thing. And the foreman said, "That's really interesting. We've had some other guys have very similar type stories from up in this job site." And the foreman also said, "You see those drums over there, those 55-gallon drums, they weigh 475 pounds, and they have diesel fuel and oil in them." And he said, "About 3 weeks ago, we came back to this job site here, and there was 8 drums, and we pulled into the lot here, came up, ready to work, and there was only 6. So we had the guys go around looking around to see what they could find. And one of the guys went up a log pile that was just right over there, got to the top, and there was some brush on the other side, and the other side is where it's very steep slope, and they found the 2 drums down there." And so this foreman said something really large came in and grabbed these drums, walked up that log pile, and threw them down the slope, one at a time. 475 pounds. Crazy. Daniel believes the generator possibly attracted it. He also said that this thing never got closer than 20 feet. It never made a sound. And over the years, he's thought a lot about this. Eventually, he found the internet and was able to find other people's stories and even connect with other people and talk to them, so he didn't feel so alone in his experience. And not as alone as he felt that night in the Mount Hood National Forest in 1968. And that is our story for tonight. Wow, what a crazy experience to be all by yourself out there, working in the middle of the night, just focused on your thing, and then, wow. Now, Jeanette and I did a trip up to Bend, Oregon this last summer for a wedding. We had a really nice time up there. Great little town, Bend, Oregon, and seeing the Three Sisters and the Cascade Range. And we went to the Newberry Volcanic National Monument. That was really cool. And there's 2 units. There's a north unit and a south unit. And we saw amazing waterfalls. And then we took this little tram, spiraled up this road to this top of this volcano. It was really cool. And then we went to the other unit and we saw the obsidian field, the volcanic flow, and it left all these black obsidian rock. Pretty amazing. All right, you guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate your comments. Thank you. And if you like stories about the strange, unexplained, and things that go bump in the night, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate that. And always remember that finding Bigfoot will be no small feat. All right, keep hiking.